Hi, I'm Ngestirosa. Today we begin our exploration of postcolonial literature. This is a powerful and thought-provoking field of study. But what exactly is postcolonial literature? Postcolonial literature comes from the idea of postcolonialism. I cite from the book Companion of Postcolonial Idea. It is written by Swart and Ray. It is written that a possible working definition for postcolonialism is that it involves a studied engagement with the experience of colonialism and its past and present effect. And then another definition given by Bochmer that postcolonial writing therefore is deeply marked by experiences of cultural exclusion and division under empire. All right, so I can explain from those definitions that postcolonial literature actually it focuses on how colonialism affected countries after they gain independence. So it is not under colonialism at that time, but it can be a condition after they gain independence. And this type of literature actually help us understand how people deal with issues like identity, power, culture after being ruled by another country. And writers use post-colonial literature to respond to and challenge the stories told by colonizers. A simple, well-known example is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. It shows how colonialism changed traditional life in Nigeria. All right, so there are some theories in postcolonial literature actually. Famous theorists who helped shape postcolonial thinking include Edward Said, who introduced the idea of Orientalism and how the West wrongly represented the East. And the second one is Gayatri Spivak. He asked whether the voice of oppressed can truly be heard. The third one we can see from Homi Bhabha, who explored the idea of the hybridity, mimicry, and in-between identity. And the last one we also discuss Frantz Fanon, who wrote about psychological effect of colonialism. All right, we'd like to discuss in short one by one from those theories. The first one, Orientalism. It is a cite from Swart and Ray that Said's main thesis was that the Western academic discipline of Orientalism was strictly speaking as a mean by which the Orient was produced as a pigment of the Western imagination for consumption in the West, and also as a mean of subserving the ultimate project of imperial domination. Well, so incomplete explanations that Orientalism is the way by the West has often described the East or the Orient as exotic, strange, backward, and unchanging. And this view makes the East seems very different and even inferior from the West. The example can be seen in colonial literature, where the Middle East is often shown as mysterious, dangerous, and primitive. And this way of thinking helped to justify colonial rule by making it seems like the colonized people needed to be controlled or civilized. It also distorts how cultures are truly represented, leading to stereotypes and misunderstanding. Okay, so we go on the next one. This is theories by Gayatri Spivak. The famous theory from Gayatri Spivak is subalterns. So let's explore the concept of subaltern. The idea originally comes from the Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci and was later responded by colonial scholar Gayatri Spivak. While subaltern actually refers to marginalized group, people who are pushed to the edge of society and have little or no voice in politics, culture, and economy. This group I often exclude from power and representation. Well, a clear example would be indigenous communities that are left out of national decisions making or denied basic rights. Well, Spivak challenges us with important questions. Can the subaltern speak? She argues that even when subalterns group try to speak, their voice are often misunderstood or ignored by dominant system. As Swart and Ray put it, it is cited by companion of postcolonial books that the subaltern describe the bottom layer of society, excluded from market, political, legal representation, and the possibility of full membership in dominant social strata. So as we reflect on this, let's ask ourselves whose voice are missing and how can we make space to truly hear them. There is some literary work that can be discussed in the theory of Orientalism and subalterns. But we will discuss that at the end of these discussions. We go first for the next theories given by Homi Bhabha. Well, the main concept from Homi Bhabha is hybridity. Hybridity is the famous theory given by Homi Bhabha. It is not only hybridity but also mimicry. But today we will discuss in short about hybridity. What is hybridity? Well, hybridity actually has become invested with impossible conceptual promise, hope bound to be dashed, fate designed to turn bad, in the desperate drive away from race, as it predicate itself on racial distinction. In the rush to theorize the betwixt and between of cultural expression, group formation, and social condition. Those statements actually given by Goldberg and Swart and Ray in a book Companion of Postcolonial Studies. Well, so we discuss further about hybridity. Well, actually, hybridity refers to the mixing of culture that happens during and over colonial rule. When different cultures meet, especially through colonizations, they influence and blend with one another, creating something new. A good example is Caribbean culture, which combine African, European, indigenous tradition into a unique cultural identity. And hybridity actually is important because it challenges fixed ideas about identity. It shows that identity is not pure or one side, but complex, changing, and shared. Bhabha ideas actually help us to understand that cultural exchange is not one-directional. Colonized people did not just adopt the colonizer culture. They also reshape it in powerful ways. As we study postcolonial literature, let's think about how hybrid identities appear in characters, story, and languages. All right. The last one, actually, this is from Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon is another thinker in postcolonial literature, and actually his famous idea is colonial psychology. It is taken from his famous book, actually. And Fanon studied how colonialism actually affects people's mind, both the colonizer and colonized. He argued that being ruled by another power creates a deep sense of inferiority in the colonized. They are also made to feel ashamed by their culture, language, and identity. Fanon believed that this psychological damage could not always be healed through peaceful means. He argued that sometimes violent resistance is needed for the oppressed to reclaim their identity, dignity, and freedom. Well, The idea of this actually, it is taken from his famous book, The Wreck of the Earth, and it explored these ideas. It described the mental and emotional scars left by colonizers and calls on the colonized to rise up and liberate themselves. Frantz Fanon actually underlined that violence as a struggle. Even though the colonial victims, especially the people who experience colonization, feel a kind of mental and emotional scars given by the colonizations, they also suggest by Fanon that they can make a kind of violence a struggle. So they can have a kind of effort to be free from the colonizations. And then from Fanon works actually help us understand that the fight against colonialism is not just physical or political. It's also deeply emotional and psychological. Well, let's take a look some example in postcolonial literature. We can take from the book Salah Asuhan, written by Abdul Muiz. Abdul Muiz Salah Asuhan is a powerful early 20th century Indonesian novel that explores themes of cultural conflict and identity. Do you know this novel? Well, this novel actually, it offers a strong example of hybridity, a key concept in postcolonial literature introduced by Homi Bhabha. Here is a discussion example connecting Salah Asuhan to hybridity. In Salah Asuhan, the main character Hanafi represents the struggle of colonized subject caught between Eastern, traditional Indonesians, and Western, Dutch or European cultures. Hanafi, educated in Western style system, becomes ashamed of his Minangkabau roots and attempt to fully adopt European values, manners, and lifestyles. And in this case, Hanafi's position, actually Hanafi's identity creates a hybrid identity. He is neither fully Dutch nor fully native Indonesians or Minangkabau. His attempt to erase his cultural roots and become modern result in internal conflict, confusions, and ultimately tragedy. Hanafi actually, in his correlations with his girlfriend, Connie, and then Hanafi has a kind of conflict, whether he will get married with Rapia, Minangkabau's girl, or with Connie, Dutch girl. And then this conflict, it brings a kind of hybrid identity. And this reflects actually a Homi Bhabha idea of hybridity, where colonial subjects form identities that are mixed in between and sometimes unstable. Rather than leading to empowerment, Hanafi hybrid identity exposes how colonial systems create fractures, self who are not accepted by other culture. Hanafi in this case is not accepted by Dutch culture, and he is also not accepted by Minangkabau's culture. When he wants to get married with Connie, Hanafi gets a kind of conflict with his Minangkabau culture. But when he gets married with Rapia, Hanafi kind of rejected his Minangkabau's culture. Well, from those conflicts, actually, there are some key points for discussions with you. Maybe we will discuss further of those theories in next meeting. There are 3 questions that I give you. How does Hanafi rejection of his own culture shows the psychological impact of colonialism? And the second, in what ways does Hanafi identity become hybrid? And what are the consequences? And the third one, does the novel suggest that hybridity is a path forward, or does its presence is as a source of conflict? Well, I thought that a good for you to discuss this for our next meeting discussions. And the conclusion for this meeting is that you have to understand postcolonial terms. And then we have 4 theories that we discussed previously from Edward Said, Homi Bhabha, Frantz Fanon, Gayatri Spivak. And there is a reflection of the discussions, from what I explained. The reflection question for you is how these terms regarding postcolonial literature and postcolonialism apply to modern global relation. And then which concept actually resonate most with you and why? This question can be answered at the end of the meeting where we discuss the 4 theories from Edward Said, Homi Bhabha, Frantz Fanon, and Gayatri Spivak. I think that's all for this meeting. Thank you guys. Bye.